Hello and welcome to the screencast for Chapter 5 of James Paul Gee's Introduction to Discourse Analysis Theory and Method, published in 1999. Chapter 5 is a continuation of some of the methodological questions and approaches that he brought up in the first two chapters of the book. I think it clarifies some of the issues. You may not agree with me because he does add a level of complexity. But I just want to point out some key pieces here. Section 5.1 here really just goes back and reiterates some of his assumptions and perspectives and his theory, which again is not entirely what we're concerned with as we read this. So the first section here is good for background understanding, but not essential to the method. One of the things, another piece of the theory that I like a lot is this idea of reflexivity. And this goes back to the chicken and the egg example that he talks about in chapter 2. The idea that language both reflects reality and creates reality. This is a key concept to this perspective. So hopefully you can understand that. I also wanted to define a little more closely what he says about situations. So situations are particular instances, so things that you yourself experience, but they happen in time. So the idea, a situation is when you encounter a text in reality. That means that the situation, even if you encounter that same text in the future or in the past, it's a different situation. For instance, you may have read, let's say, Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter book when you were a young child, and perhaps you revisited that same text now that you're an adult. The text will have different meanings because the situations will have changed. Okay, that's situations. The next section, section 5.4, goes into defining the 6 building areas, and these are the building areas that inform the worksheet. So this is just kind of a definition of the things that the worksheet, the discourse analysis worksheet that I provided, talks about, and also he talks about this in a second. Oops. Social language is revisited. This is kind of background. This is more theory than method. So read it at your own risk, I suppose. It's good, complex information. I think it's really interesting, but not necessary to understand the worksheet. Unit 5 or section 5.6, units and transcription. Completely ignore this. We are not doing this at all. This is for a high-level discourse analyst, a sociolinguist. It gets into grammatical stuff. Please don't read it. You'll hate this more than you should. 5.7 is actually the most important part of this chapter. This is where I got the questions from the worksheet from. So this is kind of a different way of framing the questions that I ask on the worksheet, as you can see. Completely skip section 5.8. This again is for an audience of discourse analysts, people who are making discourse analysis arguments to other people. We're just assuming that this is going to be valid, so completely skip it. And then 5.9, the idea here, I think this is more or less relevant to what we're doing. Look at my comments for more specific advice on how to start a discourse analysis or how to start your discourse analysis. But I do think he makes a good point here where he says, he talks about picking some key phrases and words and thinking about the situated meanings and the cultural models that they create. What he means here is I would start, once you've picked your artifact, I would say the first thing to try to do is to recognize the most interesting pieces of that artifact, which are the who's doing what's. So, what are the various identities that this artifact represents or speaks to, creates or represents, and then what are these various identities doing? How does what they're doing change in this artifact? How is it created or whatever? Um, and that's it. You can skip the note at the bottom too, because that's just a little caveat. And once you finish this, you have finished reading the G that you will read for this semester. Good luck.